Yeah, it can be. Hang on. There you
Yeah,
go.
there we go. All right. So last week, as we were leaving, Gord Tilly came up to me and mentioned that he had some questions around setting up a new shop. So I'm going to use Gord as my guinea pig tonight, and that's kind of why I brought this presentation together. And the other part was I really didn't know what to do for the safety equipment for the drill press, and I thought I'd change the schedules around. So these are just some steps that I put together through researching on the internet and talking on forums and just doing some homework and what I've done in my own shop, basically. Sam was nice enough to contribute some information as well, so I'm going to go through this relatively quickly, but if there's any points in here that anybody feels that I can add to it, please let me know. And then what I'll do is, when we're all said and done, I'll put this on our website, and we'll be able to resource it on a regular basis, so if anyone has any questions, they can go back to it. So there are about 4 or 5 different points, 6 different points that I looked at when I started this. What are the key questions in setting up a home workshop? Those are probably, that's the starting point for where you want to build out your shop. What are the essential equipment that you need for the shop? And then once you have your questions answered thoroughly and that you're comfortable with, you get started and put your shop together. And then preparing your space, or a couple of points on there about what you need to do. And then installing your equipment and then working through your projects. So those are sort of the key criteria that I looked at when I did this. So some of the questions that I looked at and asked others for: what's the purpose of the shop that you want to do? Is it going to be a business? Is it going to be personal? Do you have a lot of space? I mean, in this situation in our club, we have a lot of space, but we've given half out to seating and the other half to the club. Do we still have sufficient space? Do we need more? You also want to look at whether you're a power tool person or whether you're a hand tool person. Makes a big difference. You can get away with a fraction of the space when you're setting up a hand tool shop versus someone that has a lot of equipment and is looking to put a lot of power tools in there, where obviously you need more room. You also want to look at safety equipment. What sort of safety equipment do you want to put in your shop? Typically you want fire extinguishers and those types of things, but you want to look at all aspects of safety equipment. Again, how much space do I have? Is the space going to be dedicated? Is it strictly going to be in your basement where you have space to yourself, or are you going to share it with the garage, and therefore you have to put everything on a mobile base and you're moving it around? You also have to consider the noise that's going to come from that as well. And then, do you have enough power going to your existing location in order to use your power tools effectively, and or whether or not you need to put a sub panel in, or you need some other power to generate to get all your equipment running? Because the last thing you want is having your one tool running and then you turn on the DC and all of a sudden all your power shuts off. So you want to make sure that everything's working properly. Are you going to have enough space should you want to expand? Let's say you have a small shop now, but all of a sudden you get into it and you want to buy a lathe and you want to get into some other bigger pieces, or you need more room. You want to make sure that your shop has enough space, not just for now, but for the future. And then shop layout is probably one of the bigger questions. What's that mean?
Double it.
Double it, yeah, double the space. The optimal layout, and this is a question I'll probably throw out to the group as well. What is the best layout for your shop? I mean, I've got some suggestions that I'll talk about, but what do you do in your shops? How do you optimize the space that you have with the equipment that you have? And then you also want to know, how do you cool and heat your shop? What are you going to use to heat? Gord had the question last week, you know, should I use radiant heat? Should I use something else? So these are the kind of things that you want to source out, and you want to look on the internet or talk to people like ourselves in the woodworking club or on forums. What are the essential pieces that you need for the shop? What can you get away with now to start what you're doing and get going, versus do you have to buy everything all at once? And then also, you know, visit local woodworkers, talk to other people about what their sort of their wins and some of their struggles were when they got their shop up and running. Some of the essential power tools that I looked at, the essential tools from a power perspective: table saw, compound miter, a circular saw, a jointer or a thickness planer, bandsaw, a drill and a drill press, and a router table. So if you're a power tool guy or girl, then you want to look at these pieces as being sort of your shop essentials.
Where's the lathe?
Yeah.
I'll call that a specialty. That's an add-on. From a hand tool perspective though, these are some points that were made on one of the woodworking forums, and it was great points. If you like to work with hand tools, you talk about workbench, planes, whether it be a block plane or a jack plane, different types of saws, whether it be crosscut, dovetail, rip tenon saws, squares, marking tools of some kind in order to mark your pieces, and sharpening. Those are sort of the core essentials if you're a hand tool kind of person. Personally, I'm more of a power tool guy, but that's just me. So once you've got your questions answered and you're thinking, all right, I know what I want, I've got it in my head, what do I do now? So you want to use the internet, or you can just use a piece of paper and a pencil to sort of map out your shop layout. And there's lots of tools on the internet that can help you electronically with software programs to allow you to lay out your shop, and you can move it around, you can optimize it, you can say, well, this fits better here, or this fits better over there. So that's one of the things I found. I've got some examples that I can show you as well in the next page. Build out a budget. I think that's one of the things that we don't do. Sometimes we get carried away with equipment. Build out a budget and prioritize what you want to build out first, and then do a schedule. The biggest thing is we get a space and we start doing all these things, and all of a sudden we forgot that we needed X amount of plugs for the power equipment, or we needed something else for the shop. So lay out a budget, lay out a schedule. Determine which of your tools can be mobile versus fixed. I know in my shop most of the equipment is on mobile basis. We have examples here, so that's a priority as well. Group your effective tools together. If you can group items like your turning tools at one end of the shop versus your chop saw and router at the other end, your table saw generally is your center of your shop, because it seems to be your go-to. Lay out your dust control system as well. That's a big thing. Here we've got ours, we laid it in after the fact, but it's important that we lay out a good DC for our shops, because dust is what's going to hurt us at the end of the day, and we all know how serious that is. Again, determine the layout for your electrical outlets. This is killer for those of us that are working on a lot of power tools. I know in my shop, I didn't put mine at the minimum height. I brought mine up to about 36 inches. And all around my shop, they're all about 36 inches tall, because I just want them to be the right height that I can go in and grab them, or I don't have to go all the way down to the bottom of the floor for the power to be down there. Ensure that you have sufficient lighting. Here we've got great lighting. When you get into specialty like the lathes, you want a little bit more, but make sure you have sufficient lighting in your shop. These lights I think are great. I have them in my shop, and they seem to work fine for me, but again, if you need more light, look to get more light into your shop. So some of the layout tools that I found online, Grizzly actually has one that you can go to on grizzly.com, and it allows you to, again, just lay out your shop design. You can see to the right of the Grizzly another software program that's available out there, and the one below. So you've got 3 different types, and you can get as intricate with how the equipment looks in this one versus just your general shop.